Welcome to looping statements. We will cover for, while, and do whiles. We've just cleared in the previous sessions decision making statements, if then else, also what would be referred to as else if, and switch. So right ahead to it. I'll go to the code. I'll do like we've done so far. I'll go to the code. Then once we make sense of the code, then I'll come back to these logical diagrams of the loops. So we start with while. So in while, working with this method, demo while. In while, we have an int that has been set to the value of 1. Then we are checking a condition of that variable. So as long as it's less than 11, if that evaluates to true, then it should evaluate print this statement. And then after that, it increments that value by 1. So if we're starting with 1, then we expect that it will increment it to a 2. Then it will come back here and check. So let me put this like that. It will come back here and check to confirm that a 2 is less than 11. Then it will print and increment. Come back here and check that a 3 is less than 11. Print and increment. It's now a 4 all the way up to when it's a 10. So if I was to print this, I expect to see count is from 1 all the way up to a 10, as you see right here. Okay. Now this could be anything as long as it evaluates to true. This could be 2. So if I work with 2, then I expect to only see one output printed. Count is 1 because it needs to be less than 2. If I work with less than or equal to, so if I work with less than or equal to, then I expect to see 2 outputs and so on and so forth. So the thing is, as long as it evaluates to a true, then we have it evaluating what's inside the while block. Now please be aware of this part. It's very important because if you don't include it, you're going to have an infinite loop, a loop that runs without an end. So if I was to set this back to where we started and I don't include this bit of incrementing it, then count is 1. So count will always be less than or equal to 11. Matter of fact, let me just leave it as less than. So this is gonna be an infinite loop. It will continue on till the end of time, and I'll have to stop it. 1 1 1 1 1 1 as you see here in the output. So I'm just gonna stop that. Yeah, so be careful when you're implementing a while loop to avoid working with infinite loops. Make sure you're doing your coding correctly. Okay, so that is the while loop. Then we have the do while loop. So before I go to the do while loop, let me just go and show you the logic of the while loop before you forget about what it is, what it does. On the start, it checks the while condition, and if it's true, then it does something within the while block, and then you increment. Then you go back to check the condition again. Then if it's still true, does it. Goes back to check the condition, does something, goes back to check the condition, in this, hence the word loop. So there is like a cyclic loop here. Then we have in case the condition is false, like in the case of what we've just covered, where it is less than 11, does not evaluate to true, then it will stop, it will go outside of the loop. Okay, so that is the while loop. For loop will be very similar, but first let's look at the do while. So do while we start with 1 also. Then we have it does something first, at least once. Yeah, it does something first before it checks the condition. So it does this, then increments before it checks the condition. So you expect this to run at least once. If you're working with should be less than 1, you will still have an output. So let's see, I expect to have 1 output. Sorry, I will run this instead. I expect to have 1 output. There you go, count is 1. So it runs at least once. If it was a while loop, then it could not have worked because this could have evaluated to false. So let me just put it back to 11. see how that will go. So it will just be similar to the while loop, but at least unlike the while loop, this one runs fast at least once before it checks the conditions. So going back to this, the while loop, it does something, then it checks the condition, and then if it's false, it will stop. Otherwise, if it's true, it will do it again, check the condition. If it's true, do it, check the condition. If it's true, do it all the while, all the way until when it's false, and it goes to the end of the loop. Okay. Finally, we have the for loop. So with the for loop, in Java, this is how it is written. You have initialization here, where you have like the way you would write a variable. So if this is not a variable you plan to use anywhere, you can anywhere else, you can just initialize it inside the for loop. If it's a variable you are going to use anywhere else, you might initialize it in the class and then you reference it here. Okay, so that's one way of doing it if it's a variable you're going to use in different places. But then if it's not, you can just initialize it within the for loop like that. So with the for loop, we have the initializing block here, the termination here, and the incrementing here in this particular one. And what has been initialized here will go throughout the entire parenthesis from end to end. So if the condition is true, this will be evaluated. So let's go ahead and check this out. So right now, and the I is at 1, I is less than 11. That is true. It will go ahead and do this and increment. Now we'll be working with the 2, is it less than 11? That is true. It will print this and increment. Go ahead and check I all the way up to when it's a 10. So if we run this for loop, then we'll see what we've seen in the previous examples with while and do while. Okay, moving forward to the infinite loop for the for loop. This one has to be similar to the one that we just looked at, but it has nothing inside the parentheses apart from 2 semicolons. So if I run this, it will run to infinity. There you go. Let me just stop that real quick. Yeah, so it will go on till the end of time. I'll comment that out. Then finally we have this. So there is a format for the for loop that was specifically designed for working with arrays and collections, and we had seen this in a previous example when we were looking at switch. It was part of iterating through the array list in one of the examples. So if we have this array of these elements from 1 to 10, then if you want to iterate through them, you can just work with an int item, then you iterate through numbers using this semicolon. So it should then count from 1 to 10, and let's see what that will give us. Yeah, 1 to 10. It could really be anything. So even if it's from 1 to 9, I've worked with 1 to 10, you can barely tell the difference. So there you go, 1 to 6. Yeah, so that's that. And then go to the logic. Very similar to the while loop. It starts, checks for the condition. If it's true, it does something, checks for the condition again. If it's true, it does something, checks for the condition. If it's true, it does something, checks for the condition. If it's true, it does something, all the way up to when it evaluates to false and it goes outside the loop. Please note, do this for both for loop and while loop includes increment statements. Okay, guess I'll see you in the next one with branching statements.